Hello everyone. In this video we will see the test procedure for finding or determining the saturated surface dry condition of the sand, and this test is performed according to ASTM C128, and myself Bharat presenting you this video, and I am currently a graduate student at Iowa State University. For this test we need three simple tools. We need a tamper or a tamping rod, and we need a cone or a small mold, and we need a base plate, which is usually a steel base plate, or you can use any smooth base plate which is non-absorbent, which cannot absorb any moisture. So coming to the first step, the first step is to soak the required quantity of the fine aggregate in water, preferably for 24 hours. So in this picture we can see 3 buckets full of sand soaked in water, and we should leave it for 24 hours. And in this entire video I'll be using the word sand as just an alternative for a fine aggregate, and however this test can also be used for not only the river sand but also for other fine aggregates such as quarry crusher sand. And one thing to be kept in mind is that the required quantity to be soaked should be approximated depending on the purpose of this test. Suppose if you want to use the SSD condition, or suppose if you want to determine the SSD condition as one of the steps for other tests, such as for finding the water absorption of aggregate or specific gravity of the aggregate, then you might just need a small quantity of sand. However, if you want to do concreting, and if you want to use SSD sand for concreting or for any other purpose such as preparing mortar samples, then you might need a large quantity of sand. So soak the required quantity of sand, and then the second step is to take the soaked sand after 24 hours, take the wet sand and spread it on absorbent material such as a cloth material. So if you have a large quantity of sand, you can use bathing towels, and spread the sand on the bathing towels and leave it to dry naturally. Or when you have a large quantity of sand, then you might want to use a fan such as shown in this figure in order to speeden up the process. Because if you have a large quantity of sand and if you just let it dry naturally, you might have to wait for 6 to 7 hours, which is impractical. In which case you can use a fan, or you can use more than one fans. And then depending on the dryness or wetness of the sand, and once you feel that the sand is dry enough to be tested, you can take the sand from the towels, and we already have taken the tools. So place the mold on the base plate and fill the sand in the mold in one go. Fill the sand completely, and make sure that you fill a little excess as shown in this picture, figure 4. So when do you want to test? When do you want to start the test is actually dependent on so many things. So first of all, you might have to keep a watch on the sand as it dries. So you don't know if you want to do the first testing after 2 hours or 1 hour or 3 hours, depending on the wetness of the sand. So you might have to keep watching the sand as it dries. So you might have to test it once when you feel that the sand is ready to be tested. So after filling the mold completely with a little excess as shown in the previous figure 4, you might want to use the tamper. You use the tamper or the tamping rod and give a tamping of 25 times. And the tamping is to be done smoothly by raising the tamper just approximately 5 mm above the top surface of the sand. And you should drop 25 times. So the tamping is done 25 times in order to get the level surface. Then after 25 times, you should remove the mold smoothly by raising it vertically upwards. Then once you raise the mold, if the sand collapses, as shown in figure 7, if the sand collapses, that indicates that the sand has come to the SSD condition. In case the sand does not collapse, or if a portion of the sand does not collapse, or if the sand remains intact in the conical shape as shown in figure 6, that indicates that the surface of the sand particles still have a lot of moisture. That is the reason why it still is intact. So the moisture is holding the shape. So figure 6 indicates that the SSD condition is not yet reached, whereas figure 7 indicates that the SSD condition is reached. So if you encounter that SSD is, if you encounter a case as shown in figure 6, you might have to continue the test. So if the sand is still intact, then one more thing what you can do is just give 1 or 2 taps on the base plate, just using your finger, lightly tamp the base plate, and after you give 1 or 2 taps, if the sand collapses, that also indicates the SSD condition of the sand. So SSD is indicated either by a portion of the sand that collapse, or the entire sand might collapse, or if the sand is still intact, just by raising, after the mold is raised, you can give 1 or 2 taps to support, to see if the sand collapses. After you give 1 or 2 taps, if the sand collapses, that also indicates the SSD condition. Now, what if the sand does not collapse even after you tamp the base plate 1 or 2 times? That means you might want to dry the sand further on towels or using the fan, as already we are doing it, for further more time. Then repeat the cone test after some time. So after some time, it might be 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how much wetness is still there in the sand. So you might again have to keep watching the sand as it dries further, and then keep on repeating the same testing procedure until the SSD is achieved. So if you are doing the SSD conditioning to say for using the sand, SSD sand in concreting, or for preparing some mortar samples, then you might want to save this condition, this SSD condition of the sand. So in such a case, you can actually fill the buckets with the SSD sand and close the buckets with the lids. And also, in addition to this, you might want to seal the lids using duct tape, so that you are making sure that the moisture is not lost, or you are preventing further drying of the sand. So that is the end of this testing procedure. Thank you. And finally, if you have any questions on this, please write in the comment section below. And if you have any particular topic that you would like me to explain or cover, please also comment in the section below. And please do not forget to like, subscribe, and also share this video only if you find it useful. Thank you.